Good evening. I am Mr.Ollie. While you sleep, we quietly explore how things work. Welcome to my channel. Tonight, we journey far into the past, to a golden land beside the Nile, where giants of stone rise from the sand. We begin our story where it all began, in the sacred land of Egypt, the birthplace of the pyramids. The wind whispers softly across the desert. The moonlight rests upon golden dunes, and the Nile, ever so slowly, flows beneath the stars. This is Egypt, a land of sun and silence, of stone and story, of kings and cosmic dreams. Long before skyscrapers, before roads, before maps and machines, there was Egypt, one of the first great civilizations, where writing, science, and architecture began to take shape. People settled here because of the Nile. Each year, it would rise and flood its banks, leaving behind rich, dark soil, perfect for growing wheat, barley, and sustaining life. This predictable flood, this rhythm of nature, created a sense of order, a harmony between humans and the land. And from that harmony rose something more, a belief that life had meaning, that death was not an end, but a journey. The Egyptians believed in a world beyond, a world of stars, gods, and eternal life. To reach that world, the body had to be preserved and the soul guided. So they began to build tombs, not simple graves, but gateways to the stars. The first were small, made of mud brick. Then came the mastabas, flat-roofed tombs with sloping sides. But for the kings, that was not enough. A pharaoh was not just a ruler. He was a god on earth. When he died, he needed a house fit for eternity. And so, the pyramids were born. But before they rose from the sand, before stone was shaped and lifted skyward, there was a dream held in the heart of a civilization, a dream of eternity shaped in stone. That dream began here, in the land of Egypt, in its heat, its silence, its endless sun. And so the people looked to the desert, and they saw not emptiness, but possibility. They imagined a structure that could defy time, that could guide the soul to the heavens, that could hold a pharaoh forever. That imagination, would carry them across decades, through hardships, through sandstorms and sunrise after sunrise. And all of it began with this land, the land that gave life, the land that gave faith, the land that would give the world, the pyramids. Let us now take gentle steps deeper into this ancient journey. Block by block, breath by breath, we will discover how they were made. But first, we rest a moment and let the sands of time drift softly around us. In ancient Egypt, nothing was without meaning. Every sunrise, every star, every grain of sand had a place, a purpose, a pattern in the great design. The pyramids were not just monuments, not simply tombs of stone. They were bridges between worlds, between earth and sky, between man and the divine. The Egyptians believed in life after death, not as a hope, but as a certainty. They believed that the soul lived on, that the body, carefully preserved, could one day rise again. But this journey from death to rebirth was not simple. It was long, difficult, and sacred. The soul, or Ka, needed guidance. It needed protection. It needed a place to begin. That place was the pyramid. Each pyramid was more than a resting place. It was a cosmic machine, a temple of resurrection, a stairway to the stars. Its shape, the perfect triangle, pointing toward the heavens, was no accident. It symbolized rays of sunlight, the very light that carried the soul upward. The ancient texts speak of Ra, the sun god, rising each day in his golden boat, traveling across the sky and descending into the underworld at night. The pharaoh, seen as the son of Ra, was destined to follow that same path, to rise, to fall, and to rise again. So they built not for beauty, not for pride, but for eternal life. Inside the pyramid, there were chambers, tunnels, and shafts. Some aligned with stars, others led nowhere. Some say they were symbolic. Others believe they had practical ritual uses. But always, they were built with care, with belief. Even the smallest detail held meaning. The direction the pyramid faced, the slope of its sides, the location of the tomb within, all had to be just right, because the pyramid was a message to the gods and a promise to the soul. But it was not only the pharaoh who believed. All of Egypt did. Workers labored, not as slaves, but as believers. Ordinary men, called from farms and towns, given food, shelter, and purpose. They worked together, moved stone after stone, not only for the king, but for the afterlife. Because in helping the pharaoh reach eternity, they too touched the divine. And perhaps, in some quiet part of the mind, each worker wondered if he too might one day rise. So the pyramids stood, not as empty giants, but as vessels full of hope and sacred trust. They told a story of life, of death, of rebirth. And in every block, in every carved passage, the ancient Egyptians placed their faith, the belief that life continues, that the stars are not far, that stone can remember. That is why the pyramids were built, and that is why they still stand, quiet, timeless, full of purpose. In the heart of Egypt, there lived one man, whose word was law, whose breath was sacred, whose gaze stretched across the kingdom. Like the rising sun, the pharaoh, to his people, he was not just a king. He was divine, a living God, a bridge between the world of men and the world of gods. Every breath he took, every decree he made, was touched by the heavens. And so, when he dreamed of a monument, it was not for glory, not for riches, but for eternity. The pharaoh's vision was grand, but it was also spiritual. He saw the pyramid not just as a structure, but as a sacred tool, a way to rise after death, to rejoin the gods, to continue ruling from beyond the sky. This was not ambition, it was destiny. Each pharaoh, from Djoser to Snefru to Khufu, carried this vision forward. Each one wanted to build something greater, more perfect, more aligned with the stars. The early kings began small, step pyramids, experimental forms. Then came the bold designs, smooth-sided giants that seemed to pierce the sky itself. Khufu, the great builder of the Great Pyramid at Giza, dreamed of something no one had ever attempted. A mountain of stone, more than 140 meters high, perfectly aligned, built to last forever. Why? Because he believed that such a structure could hold his soul, could carry it beyond time. But how did the pharaoh know what to build? Where to build it? How to shape it? He had help from priests, from astronomers, from architects who studied the stars and sand alike. These were men of deep knowledge, men who saw the world as a sacred map. Every corner of the land, every shadow cast by the sun, held clues. The location of Giza, the shape of the pyramid, the angle of the walls, all chosen with care, all guided by the pharaoh's sacred vision. And yet, he did not build alone. The people came, thousands. They answered the call. They believed in him, and through their hands, his dream took form. Each block laid was an act of devotion. Each stone lifted, a step toward the divine. They were not just building for the king. They were building for eternity, for Egypt, for the gods. And so, the pharaoh's vision became real, stone by stone, layer by layer. Not just a tomb, but a beacon, a signal to the stars that the son of Ra still lives. His spirit, rising with the morning sun. His soul, guided by the stars of Orion. His name, whispered by the desert wind for thousands of years. And even now, as you drift into sleep, that vision still stands. The pyramid, silent and strong. A monument to belief. A monument to one man's dream. A dream made of stone. Before a single stone was lifted, before a single tool touched the earth, one decision had to be made. Where? Where would the pyramid stand? Where would the pharaoh's soul begin its eternal journey? This question was not simple. It required more than maps. It required more than rulers and ropes. It required faith, intuition, a reading of the land, the stars, and the gods. And so, they looked outward, to the horizon, to the river, to the desert that stretched forever. And then they chose a place, the Giza Plateau, a rocky rise west of the Nile, facing the morning sun, a place both high and firm, untouched by floods, strong enough to bear the weight of eternity. The ancients believed that the west was the land of the dead, where the sun sank each evening, and where the soul began its passage into the next life. And the Giza Plateau lay perfectly to the west, close to the river of life, but apart from the daily world. It was quiet, still, sacred, a place where the earth met the sky, and where heaven might be reached. But there was more. The stars above had something to say. Egyptian priests looked to the skies, to Orion's belt, to Sirius, to the sun's rising and setting points across the year. The alignment was no accident. The pyramids would mirror the stars, their placement, their angles, all echoing the heavens. Some believe that the three great pyramids at Giza matched the stars of Orion, 3 points of light reflected in stone. The land itself was tested. The rock beneath was solid limestone, a foundation that could hold millions of tons. No sinking, no shifting, just strength and wind, a breeze across the plateau that carried the scent of stone and time. They mapped the slope, measured the sun's path, marked the shadows, and then, with careful hands, they marked a sacred square, north, south, east, west, the corners aligned with precision. Perfect geometry on a natural hill of rock. It was here that the pyramid would rise. Choosing the Giza Plateau was not just a matter of land. It was a spiritual choice, a cosmic one. It was the heart of an invisible design, where heaven and earth could meet. And once chosen, the plateau was never the same. It became holy ground. Stonecutters arrived. Surveyors walked the lines. Prayers were offered. The first foundations were carved. It had begun. And now, as you close your eyes, imagine that hill long ago, empty, quiet, waiting, and then, step by step, block by block, it would become a symbol of eternity. All because they chose the right ground, the sacred ground, the Giza Plateau. The desert is vast, silent, endless. But to the ancient Egyptians, it was not empty. It was full of meaning, full of signs, full of stars. Before the first block was placed, before the first ramp was shaped, they had to find true north. Not roughly, not approximately, but perfectly. Because the pyramid was not just a building, it was a message to the sky. The builders turned their gaze upward, to the stars that never set. The stars that circled the north. Night after night, these stars, unmoving to the eye, became their guide. They watched, patiently, carefully, for days, for weeks, until they could mark the exact path, the exact point where the heavens turned. This became true north. Then came the ropes, the measuring rods, the plumb lines made with stones and string. In the morning sun, they cast long, straight shadows. In the stillness of night, they waited for starlight. Teams of surveyors walked the plateau, marked the cardinal directions, measured angles with tools of wood and copper. With hands that trusted in the stars, they used a tool called the merkit, like a straight staff, aligned with a plumb line. By sighting stars as they crossed the sky, they could map out perfect alignments on Earth. And what they found was extraordinary. The Great Pyramid would be aligned almost perfectly to the 4 cardinal points: north, south, east, west, not off by meters, not even by degrees, but by tiny fractions, so precise that even modern tools would struggle to match it. How would they do it? With patience, with knowledge, with faith in the patterns of the heavens. Because they believed the stars were more than light. They were sacred. They were maps. They were gods. And the pyramid had to honor them. Some say the alignment matches the belt of Orion. Others say it mirrors ancient solar paths. Still others see patterns we may never fully understand. But what is certain is that the builders saw the desert, not as chaos, but as a canvas, a place where sky and sand could meet. And by tracing the stars, they could trace the will of the gods. Imagine them now, standing in the cool of night, holding staffs and ropes, whispering to one another as the stars shift above them, drawing lines, checking angles, measuring the invisible so they could shape the eternal. And when the first square was drawn, the sacred foundation, perfectly aligned with the universe, the desert was no longer just sand. It was sacred geometry. It was starlight made solid. It was order where once there had been only wind. As you rest now, let your thoughts drift like ancient shadows across the sand. Let your breath slow with the rhythm of the stars above. And remember, before the pyramid rose, before stone met stone, there were eyes on the sky. There were hands on the earth. There was silence and perfect alignment. In the golden silence of the desert, a strange kind of magic unfolded. Not spells, not chants, but numbers, lines, ratios, mathematics. Not in books, not on chalkboards, but in the sand, drawn with wooden sticks, measured with rope, remembered in the minds of builders. The pyramid was not built by chance. Its shape, its size, its slope were all deliberate. Behind the massive stones, behind the sweat and strength, there was deep understanding, sacred geometry, a belief that numbers were not only tools, but truths. The Egyptians knew of the golden ratio, though they did not call it by that name. They sensed harmony in the balance between height and base, between what is seen and what is unseen. They knew the triangle and the perfect 3-4-5 relationship. It was simple, elegant, powerful. If one side is 3 units, another is 4, then the diagonal will always be 5. With this, they made perfect right angles over vast distances, without machines, without lasers, only with rope and quiet minds. The Great Pyramid has a slope of about 51.5 degrees, not chosen randomly, but drawn from this balance. Some believe it reflects the ratio of a perfect triangle. Others say it mirrors the sun's angle at solstice, or the height of the pyramid equals the radius of a circle made from its base. Whatever the reason, it is precise and beautiful, and it held meaning. Because for the ancient builders, math was not cold. It was not separate from spirit. It was divine. They believed that harmony in numbers meant harmony in the universe. If the pyramid was correct in proportion, then the soul could rise without obstruction. The gods would smile, the stars would guide, and time would respect the form. Each side of the base, measured carefully, each corner, laid out with care. If one angle was wrong, the whole would suffer. And so they checked and rechecked, not with calculators, but with eyes trained by habit, with minds trained by tradition, and with hearts that understood the weight of each number. Inside the pyramid, measurements continued. Passages followed straight lines. Chambers sat on specific axes. Air shafts pointed to sacred stars. This was not just architecture. It was intention. It was design that flowed from the mind, to the hand, to the heavens. And every line carved in stone reflected lines once drawn in sand. Simple, soft, and sacred. Now, as you lie still, imagine those early mornings. On the Giza plateau, a priest with a long rope, two assistants with stakes, a smooth stretch of sand. They begin drawing, marking, measuring. They speak in quiet tones, counting, correcting, smiling when the form aligns. Another triangle born, another corner blessed, and the work continues. The pyramid is more than a mountain of stone. It is a song of numbers, a silent hymn, written in proportion. And it all began in the sand. Before the pyramid could rise, before a single block was placed, the stones had to be found, freed from the earth, shaped by hand, and guided to the desert plain. This quiet work, hidden beneath centuries of sand, began deep in the heart of the land. Most of the pyramid was built from limestone, soft, pale, and abundant. It came from nearby, from quarries just southeast of Giza. There, in the early light, workers struck the stone, not with steel, not with machines, but with copper, with pounding stones, with patient rhythm. Copper tools, soft by today's standards, were used with care. Chisels, adzes, hammers. They struck again and again, cutting long grooves into the rock, then drove in wooden wedges. These wedges were soaked with water, and slowly, as the wood swelled, the stone cracked and came free. It was slow work, hot work, sacred work. Each block released was a gift from the earth, each one destined to be part of something greater. Not all stone was the same. For the inner layers, limestone was enough. But for the smooth outer casing, they wanted the finest quality. That came from Tura, across the river, a brilliant white limestone, cut with more precision, shipped carefully to shine in the sun. And inside, for the king's chamber, they used granite. Hard, heavy, unyielding. Granite came from Aswan, far to the south, nearly 900 kilometers away. It was floated down the Nile, on wooden boats, guided by wind and current. Massive red stones, some weighing over 60 tons, pulled from the quarries with effort beyond imagination. How they moved them is still debated, but somehow they did, with sleds, with rollers, with will. The workers who shaped these stones were not nameless. Some left marks, chisel strokes, symbols scratched into the sides. A few blocks bear team names. The Friends of Khufu, the Drunkards of Menkor. These were not slaves. They were artisans, laborers, builders of a sacred dream. They lived near the site, in organized villages, fed well, cared for, respected, because they were doing the work of eternity. Imagine now a man standing knee-deep in dust, lifting his copper chisel, striking the limestone with steady hands. The sun climbs, the air thickens, but he continues, not for riches, not for reward, but because this stone will be part of the pharaoh's home in the afterlife. And that matters. From quarry to ramp, from block to base, each stone carried history. Each strike carried intention. Some of these tools have been found, worn down, but still here. Small reminders of a time when belief was carved into stone. Now, as you lie still and the world grows quiet, let your breath soften. Think of the hands that shaped these blocks with copper, with care, with reverence. Stone by stone, they built a path to the stars. And it all began in the quarries of Egypt. The stone was cut, shaped, ready, but it was not yet home. It still lay in the quarry, far from its final resting place. And so came the next great task, moving the unmovable. How do you transport a stone, weighing several tons, across desert sands? Not with trucks, not with cranes, but with simplicity, with patience, with wisdom passed down through the centuries. The Egyptians used sleds, simple wooden frames, pulled by men, gliding over sand. But sand is not smooth. It grips, it resists. So they tamed it with water. They poured water onto the sand, in front of the sled, just enough to firm it. Not too much, not too little. This simple act reduced friction, made the sled glide, made the impossible possible. Modern experiments confirm it. Wet sand cuts resistance nearly in half. And the ancients knew this. Without formulas, without physics, only experience and trust in the land. Teams of workers pulled the sleds. Some pushed, some guided ropes, some sang rhythmic songs to keep time, to lift spirits, to move as one. They were not alone. Supervisors walked beside them. Priests offered blessings. Children watched from hilltops. It was a community moving mountains. Some blocks came from nearby quarries, just a few kilometers away. Others, like granite from Aswan, had to travel much farther. These stones were loaded onto wooden boats, crafted for balance and strength. They floated down the Nile with the current, sails catching wind, crews guiding the way. At Giza, temporary canals were likely dug so the boats could come close, right to the edge of the plateau. From there, the stones were unloaded and pulled up to the site. Every stone moved was a victory, a small triumph, over weight, over distance, over time. Imagine them now, hundreds of workers, moving together, muscles tight, feet firm in the sand. One voice calls the rhythm, the others respond. The sled creaks, the sand hisses, the block slides forward, and the pyramid grows. It was not fast. Some days, only a few stones were moved, but they continued, sunrise after sunrise, season after season, because they believed, because they were building something eternal. And every block had a purpose, a place. They were not just transporting stone. They were carrying dreams, faith, the weight of a pharaoh's soul. Now, as you rest, close your eyes and listen. Hear the soft crunch of sand beneath wood, the steady breathing of many workers, the hum of ancient song, the wind across the dunes, and feel the slow, steady movement of something greater than all of us. A pyramid rising one stone at a time. Sometimes, greatness is not born from complexity, but from simplicity perfected through time and patience. The ancient Egyptians did not have engines, did not have wheels strong enough for stone, did not have steel or modern science, but they had wisdom, they had observation, and they had the desert as both challenge and teacher. To move the massive stones, they used sleds, wooden runners, flat platforms, bound together with rope and skill. Each block was placed gently onto the sled, secured, balanced, ready. Then came the sand, and the secret was water. Dry sand resists. It swallows the sled, fights the motion, slows everything down. But wet sand, just the right amount, becomes firm, stable, silky beneath the wood. The workers discovered that if they poured water ahead of the sled, the grains would bind. Not too tightly, not too loosely. This changed everything. Suddenly, a stone that took dozens of men to drag could be moved with far less force. It was elegant. It was efficient. It was brilliant. Modern scientists tested this theory. They built replica sleds, dragged heavy weights across different sands. And what did they find? Exactly what the Egyptians knew 4,000 years ago, that the right mix of water and sand reduces resistance by nearly 50%. What seems like magic was in fact ingenious simplicity. Imagine it now, a long wooden sled gliding slowly across dampened earth. A group of men walk in front, carrying clay jars, pouring water in rhythmic streams. The sand darkens, firms, smooths. Another team pulls, bare feet digging into the earth, bodies leaning together. The sled groans, the block shifts, and forward it moves. Smooth, steady, sure. This system was repeated day after day, stone after stone, from quarry to base, from earth to eternity. Some larger stones were placed on sleds fitted with crossbeams to hold their weight. Others may have used wooden rollers for short distances, but the water and sand method remains the most likely key. No magic, no lost technology, just human insight and the lessons of nature. Even the ramps that climbed the pyramid were likely prepared with this method. Water on sand, sled on ramp, stone to summit. The rhythm of the process matched the rhythm of the land. Now, as you breathe deeply and your eyes begin to grow heavy, let your thoughts drift to that ancient scene. The creak of wood, the splash of water, the low hum of voices. A team working not just with force, but with understanding. They knew the desert, they knew the sand, and they knew that sometimes the gentlest solutions are the strongest. The pyramid was not built by brute power alone, but by the wisdom of the land and the softness of water. And that is a wonder in itself. In our time, we shape stone with steel, with drills, with diamond-tipped blades. But in ancient Egypt, there was no steel, no electricity, no machines. And yet, they carved stone, they shaped blocks, they built pyramids. How? With copper, stone, and knowledge passed down like sacred fire. Copper, soft by today's standards, but in the hands of skilled builders, it became powerful. They made chisels, saws, drills, all from copper, sharpened, heated, hammered into form. They knew its limits, and they worked within them. To cut limestone, which is soft, copper tools were enough. Chisels bit into the rock. Hammers tapped a rhythm, like a quiet song. Strike, chip, strike, smooth. The sound echoed across the quarry. A song of patience, of progress. For harder stones, like granite, they used different methods. They did not cut it directly. They shaped it by pounding it. With dolerite, a very hard stone, rounded like a hammer, they lifted, swung, and let gravity do the work. Over and over, hour by hour, until the granite began to yield. Slowly, very slowly. They also used sand, not just beneath sleds, but as a cutting tool. When copper saws weren't strong enough, they added sand to the groove and let the grains do the cutting. Grit, drag, grind. Simple, silent, effective. Drilling? Yes, they drilled too. Hollow copper tubes, twisted with sand and water, turned by hand, round and round, creating holes in solid stone. Not in minutes, but in days. Still, they did it because they understood their materials, their tools, their time. They were not in a hurry. They were building for eternity. Archaeologists have found many of these tools. Chisels worn thin, drills broken from use, marks left in stone where ancient hands once worked. Even unfinished obelisks lie in quarries. Half-shaped, half-cut, still waiting. These are their blueprints, their stories etched in stone. And those marks are more than scratches. They are proof of skill, of technique, of patience that few today could match. Imagine a man kneeling beside a block, copper chisel in hand, hammer raised. He is not rushing, not guessing. He knows this stone, its weight, its grain, its song. He carves a line, just right, smooth, precise, not for beauty alone, but for function, for fit, for eternity. Behind him, another worker sharpens tools. Over fire, over stone, the cycle never stops. Chip, grind, shape, sharpen, begin again. And so, with copper and stone, they built a wonder of the world. Not by magic, but by mastery. A mastery born from years of repetition, from eyes trained by the sun, from hands steady as the Nile. Now, as you settle into rest, picture those ancient craftsmen, not famous, not forgotten, simply working, stone by stone, strike by strike. And in that rhythm, in that sound, the pyramid slowly rose. As the pyramid grew, each layer taller than the last, one question became more urgent. How did they lift the stones? No cranes, no pulleys, no steel scaffolding. Yet the stones, some weighing several tons, were placed with care, more than 140 meters high. What secret path carried them there? The answer may lie in the ramps. Many believe ramps were the key. Long slopes, built from mud brick, limestone chippings, and clay. Simple, but powerful. But what kind of ramp? That is where the mystery deepens. Some imagine a straight ramp, extending from the ground to the growing pyramid, gradually rising, strong enough to hold workers, sleds, and stone. But such a ramp would have to be incredibly long, nearly a mile, and that much material seems unlikely. Others suggest a spiral ramp, winding around the pyramid as it rose. A narrow path, curving upward like a ribbon of dust. This would reduce length, but limit space. Large blocks would be hard to turn on corners. Still, others believe in a zigzagging ramp on one side of the pyramid, angling back and forth, like ancient switchbacks carved into a slope. And some whisper of a ramp that was hidden, built within the pyramid structure. A corkscrew tunnel, now buried by time. Intriguing, but still unproven. The truth may be simpler, or more complex. Some think a straight ramp was used for the lower levels, then dismantled, followed by smaller, localized ramps, or wooden levers and scaffolds, each phase requiring a different method. Adapted, tested, improved. Whatever the form, the purpose was clear: to raise stone, slowly, safely, precisely. Imagine it now, a sloped path of packed earth, rising beside the pyramid, men pulling sleds, upward and upward, the blocks scraping gently, dust trailing behind, foremen calling out pace, water poured to ease the sand. At the top, a new course awaits, a smooth foundation, ready to receive the stone. And then, back down they go, again and again, like ants building a giant mound of stone. Some ramps were temporary, built, used, removed, and over time, swallowed by wind and buried beneath later structures. Archaeologists search for signs, lines in the ground, marks on the stones, patterns in the debris. A few ramps have been found at smaller pyramid sites, traces of their genius, still visible in the sand. But at Giza, the mystery remains, because the ramps were never the goal, only the path. The The real story is the movement itself, the people, the will, the rhythm. Now, as you close your eyes, let yourself walk that ancient ramp. Feel the slope beneath your feet, the sun on your back, the creak of the sled, the chant of your team. Each step forward is a step toward the sky, and above you, stone by stone, the pyramid waits. A pyramid is not built by one man, nor by a few. It takes thousands, hands upon hands, step by step, stone by stone. But even thousands must be guided, organized, sustained. And in ancient Egypt, they were. Building a pyramid was not chaos. It was order, precise, disciplined, almost sacred. There were workers, yes, but also planners, foremen, tool makers, cooks, healers, and wise architects who saw the pyramid not just as stone, but as a vision. Each one had a role. Each role had meaning. The workforce was divided into teams, groups of about 20 to 40 men. Each team had a name, some humorous, some proud. The drunkards of Menkor, the friends of Khufu. These names, carved into stone blocks, remain with us still. Each team was part of a larger crew, working on specific tasks, moving stones, shaping blocks, clearing paths, maintaining ramps, all under the eye of foremen, men of experience, with voices that carried across the plateau. Then came the craftsmen, skilled workers, trained for years, stone cutters, sculptors, tool makers. They shaped the finer pieces, smoothed the casing stones, carved the inner chambers. Their touch was the final whisper on each surface. They were respected, fed better, given cool spaces to rest, because their hands preserved the king's legacy. Over them all were the architects, master planners, mathematicians, priests of measurement. They walked the lines, studied the stars, watched the angles, checked the fit of every stone. They held scrolls, used string and sight, balanced the forces of the earth with the dreams of the divine. To them, the pyramid was more than construction. It was harmony. And yet, at the foundation of it all were the workers, farmers during the flood season, when the Nile covered their fields. They came to work, to serve the pharaoh, to be part of something greater. They were not slaves. This is a common myth. They were fed, sheltered, cared for when injured, buried with dignity. Their village near the pyramid site had bakeries, breweries, medical quarters. Their bones show signs of labor, but also of healing. They were valued. Imagine it now, a bustling sight beneath the sun, voices calling out, hammers striking stone, dust swirling, laughter rising from shared meals. A foreman walks past, checks the sled lines, nods in approval. An architect stands on a ridge, sighting the horizon, measuring the heavens. And at the heart, a man lifts a chisel, taps it with care, carving a corner that will last for centuries. It was not just a workforce. It was a living system, each part vital, each task essential. From the lowest laborer to the high priest of design, all were bound together by stone, by sun, by faith, and the pyramid is their silent witness. Now, as you lie back, let your mind settle into their rhythm, the pulse of teamwork, the hush of intention, the quiet pride of hands that build for something beyond themselves. This was the soul of the pyramid, not only stone, but people, working together, always upward, always forward. Far from the cities, far from temples and palaces, a different kind of village once stood. Dusty, busy, but full of life. It was the workers' camp, a temporary town built in the shadow of eternity. Here, the pyramid rose, and here, the people lived. Each morning began early, before the sun became too harsh. The desert light stretched slowly across the land, casting long shadows over ramps and stones. Men stirred from their huts, simple shelters made from mud brick and wood, closed together, lined in rows. Some lived in dormitories, others in family spaces, some just outside the site, under woven mats for shade, but all shared a rhythm. Food was simple, but steady. Bread, barley porridge, onions, dates, sometimes dried fish, sometimes meat, and always beer. Not the kind we drink today, but thick, nutritious, almost like soup. It gave strength and soothed the heat. Every day, huge bakeries fired ovens. Grain was milled by hand. Flour was mixed, shaped, and baked. At the heart of the site, boiling pots bubbled. Cooks stirred. Smoke drifted in the air. No one worked hungry. The day was divided into shifts. Teams rotated. Some worked the quarries, some the ramps. Others maintained tools. Each job had a leader. Each worker knew his place. When a shift ended, they rested, not in silence, but in fellowship. Some played music. Others told stories. Some simply sat, feet buried in cool sand. Evening brought relief. The desert breeze arrived. The sun sank behind the dunes, and laughter echoed in the camp. Injuries were common. Blisters, broken bones, strain backs, but care was provided. Simple clinics existed. Healers used herbs, clay bandages, and honey to cleanse wounds. Some skeletons show healed fractures, signs of rest and recovery. This was no cruel labor. It was effort, shared and supported. And though the work was hard, there was pride. To help build the pharaoh's tomb was a sacred task. Their names may be lost, but their hands are remembered. In every corner of the pyramid, their touch remains. Some left marks, tiny inscriptions on the stones, group names, symbols, little jokes carved in dust. A way to say, I was here, I helped, I mattered. Imagine it now, a quiet morning, a line of men walking toward the ramps, baskets of tools slung across their backs, the smell of baked bread in the air, the sun just beginning to glow. Later, as work ends, they gather by the fires, sharing dates, pouring thick beer, watching the stars rise above the silhouette of the pyramid. It was hard, yes, but also human, full of routine, of ritual, of rhythm. Now, as you lie still, let your breath match their pace. Steady, measured, patient. Let the world of stone and sweat fade into a softer hum. And remember that even great wonders are built with simple days, with ordinary people living, eating, resting, and dreaming. All great things begin from the ground, quietly, steadily, stone after stone. The pyramid did not rise in a rush. It grew slowly, layer by layer, from base to tip, from the earth to the stars. The builders started with the foundation, perfectly leveled, meticulously measured, not flat by, but truly flat. Even by today's standards, it is nearly flawless. They carved into the bedrock, smoothed it, aligned it with the stars. This was the sacred square, the frame upon which eternity would stand. Then came the first course, massive blocks, laid in tight lines, each one set with care, guided into place with levers, slid along smooth channels. The joints were so close, you could barely fit a blade between them. They continued, course by course, each layer slightly smaller than the one below. Step by step, upward, the pyramid narrowed as it rose, its shape forming gradually, a slope of around 51 degrees. This was no guess. It was design, a slow ascent into the sky. For every layer, a new surface had to be prepared. Stones lifted, pulled up ramps, placed by hand, tapped into position. Then, sand and chips were packed beneath them, so they rested firmly. Each block was more than weight. It was memory. It was meaning. The builders knew their places, their order, their rhythm. Some cut stone, some moved it, some leveled and aligned, and each part mattered. The outer edges were the most refined, smooth, precise. The casing stones, often polished limestone, created the shining surface we now only imagine. At night, in ancient times, they say the pyramid glowed, reflecting moonlight, like a mountain made of light. Inside, the core was built with rougher stones, more loosely placed, but still bound in pattern. Even that had purpose. Each level took weeks, sometimes months, but they continued. The sun rose, the sun set, and the pyramid grew, from a pile of rock to a sacred form. Imagine it now. A team stands on the edge of a newly finished layer, looking down at what they have built, looking up at what remains. They do not hurry. They do not stop. They lift. They place. They shape. And they rise. Together. No part of the pyramid was accidental. Not its height. Not its angle. Not its flow. Everything was intentional. And that is what makes it eternal. Even now, thousands of years later, the stones still sit, holding the shape of vision, of devotion, of purpose. Now, as you rest, let your thoughts drift with those rising layers, from the warm rock below to the breeze at the summit. Feel the weight of each stone, placed not in haste, but in hope, layer by layer, breath by breath. The pyramid rises. And so, may your dreams. From a distance, the pyramid looks perfect, symmetrical, smooth, balanced beneath the sky. But deep within, at its heart, it is something else. Rough, heavy, uneven. The core, hidden from view, but holding everything together. Not every stone was polished. Not every block a masterpiece. The pyramid's center was made of rough limestone, chip blocks, broken fragments. The builders understood something simple and powerful. Not everything needs to shine. Some things just need a hold, to carry weight, to endure. They built the pyramid from the outside in. First, the foundation, then the outer casing stones, cut smooth, aligned with care. After that, the core was filled, layer by layer, block by block. The interior was built with stones that didn't quite fit, leftover pieces, smaller rocks, earth and gravel packed in between. But they were placed intentionally, supported by the walls, held by gravity, and good design. Some scholars believe ramps were built inside the growing core, temporary walkways, removed after each layer was complete. Others think the inner space was filled quickly, to save time, to hold shape. Whatever the method, it worked, because that core still stands, through storms, through centuries, through shifting sands. It endures. Walk with me now, through imagination. The outer edge glows in the sun. White limestone, warm to the touch. But inside, a different world. Dust, darkness, rough stones stacked close. Air still and dry. Men move slowly, carrying chunks of rock, setting them down, one after another. No polish, no perfection, only strength, only structure. The builders knew balance. Outer beauty, held by inner strength. The smooth casing depended on the solid center. Like the human heart, it is not always seen, but it supports everything. Some blocks in the core were oddly shaped. Some slanted, some rested on wedges. Others leaned into the casing, Gaps were filled with sand and small stones, pounded in tightly, sealed with purpose. Even the most chaotic pieces had a place. The deeper one goes into the pyramid, the rougher it becomes, but not weaker. It is solid, dense, unshaken by time. This is what allows the pyramid to stand, year after year, millennia after millennia, because beauty fades, but structure endures. Now, as you lie still, think of your own center, not the polished parts, not the shining surface, but the core, the quiet strength, the steady support, the inner pieces that hold everything else. They may be rough, but they are real, and like the pyramid, they are enough. So sleep, with that in mind, the rough stones, the packed earth, the hidden strength, that lets everything above reach for the sky. The pyramid we see today is bare, weathered, its surface broken by time. But long ago, it shone brilliant, radiant, like a beacon in the desert sun. It was not just built to last, but to glow. The secret was in the casing stones. These stones were made from fine white limestone, quarried at Tura, across the Nile. Smooth, dense, polished with care. They covered the entire pyramid, from base to peak, like skin over muscle, like light over structure. Each one cut with precision, each one placed to catch the sun. In the morning light, the pyramid would blaze, its faces glimmering, its angles sharp and flawless. From miles away, travelers could see it, shining against the blue sky. It was a mirror for the gods, a stairway of light, a symbol of purity. For the ancient Egyptians, white meant sacredness, divine power, renewal. The gleaming finish wasn't decoration. It was intention, a way to honor the pharaoh and to guide his soul. Placing the casing stones required care. They were shaped slightly angled, so they fit snugly against the slope. Their edges were polished, their faces flattened by hand. Some say they were buffed with sand and cloth. Then they were lifted and laid tightly, side by side, so close you could not slip a knife between them. They locked together, sealed with mortar, so that not even wind could find a way in. But time is patient. Earthquakes struck, invaders came. Many casing stones were removed, taken to build mosques and palaces. Now, only a few remain. At the base of the Great Pyramid, you can still see them. Heavy, pale, smooth as ancient bone, a whisper of what once was. Imagine it now. The pyramid, newly finished. The sun rising, its surface gleaming white. The desert quiet. Priests stand at its foot, offering prayers. The people look up, eyes wide with wonder. It is not just a tomb. It is a monument of light, a gift to the sky. And the pharaoh, buried within, shines with it. These stones mattered. They were not extra. They were the finish, the final touch, the divine wrapping. And even now, even after centuries of wind and war, we remember them. We imagine them. The glow, the gleam, the glory. Now, as you settle into rest, picture that radiant pyramid, not as it is now, but as it once was. White as clouds, smooth as calm water, still and silent. It does not shout, it simply reflects. It stands, like your breath, soft, balanced, enduring. The smooth stones are gone, but their light remains. In memory, in mystery, in dreams. When we think of ancient monuments, we often think of their size, their weight, their scale, but the true wonder lies in the details, in the lines, the corners, the spaces between, because the pyramid was not just massive, it was precise, stone after stone, placed with care, aligned with intention. Every joint, every angle, measured, checked, perfected. Even today, Engineers marvel. How do they do it? Without lasers, without steel tools, without blueprints. They did it with eyes trained by repetition, with string and plumb lines, with geometry passed from one generation to the next, and most of all, with time. They took their time. Let's begin with the joints. Between two massive blocks, the space is often less than a millimeter, soaked tight that not even a blade of grass can slip through. This was not luck. It was labor. The stones were rubbed together, again and again, until they fit, like puzzle pieces, in the hands of the patient. Angles mattered too. Each face of the pyramid sloped precisely, not just roughly 51 degrees, but within fractions of that. Each course laid flat, each edge kept straight. If the angle shifted, even slightly, the entire pyramid could fail. But it didn't, because they adjusted constantly, checking, measuring, trusting the line more than the eye. Orientation mattered most of all. The Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to true north, off by only a tiny fraction. Even today, that level of alignment is hard to match. How? They watched the stars. They followed the shadow of the sun. They measured with ropes, marked the horizon, and they trusted in the sky. Their compass was the cosmos. Their ruler was the rhythm of the heavens. Every block was assigned a place, not just any block, anywhere. They were sorted by size, shape, weight, then guided to the correct level, to the exact corner. Foremen checked the placement. Builders tapped the stones into position. Levers nudged them. Sand was packed beneath. And then they rested, still, balanced, perfect. This attention to detail gives the pyramid its strength, its silence, its stillness. Because when things fit well, they last. When lines are clean and angles true, the years cannot wear them down. The pyramid does not lean, does not crack. It holds, because it was born of precision. Now, as you lie still, notice the details around you. The weight of your blanket, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet between each heartbeat. This is your own kind of balance, your own alignment, your own sacred geometry. And just like the pyramid, you are held together by 1,000 gentle decisions, measured, placed, perfect in their own way. So rest now and let your mind settle into the space between the stones, into the angle of peace, into the precision of stillness, like the builders once did, like the stars above them, in silence, in symmetry, in sleep. From the outside, the pyramid seems solid, immovable, a single shape of silent stone. But inside, there are chambers, passages, spaces carved with purpose and cloaked in mystery. At the heart of the Great Pyramid lies a hidden world. The entrance sits above the ground, a narrow tunnel, sloping downward, small, dark, tight. It leads to the descending passage, then splits. One path continues deep into the bedrock. Another rises upward toward the unknown. That rising path becomes the grand gallery. Step inside it. In your mind, it is long, tall, echoing, roughly 8 meters high, 46 meters long, and only 2 meters wide. The ceiling slopes upward, in layers, each stone overlapping the last, forming a corbelled arch. No decorations, no paintings, only stone, silent but powerful. The grand gallery leads the way, upward, toward the pharaoh's resting place. But why such height? Why such care? No one knows for sure. Some say it was ceremonial, a sacred path for the soul. Others say it was practical, a space for moving massive granite beams. It remains a beautiful question. At the end of the gallery, a small passage opens, leading to the king's chamber. There, in the center, sits a large granite box, the sarcophagus, empty now, but once, perhaps the vessel for the pharaoh himself. The chamber is simple, bare walls, smooth granite, no writings, no gold, but above, hidden from sight, are 5 layers of relieving chambers. They hold the weight, granite beams, stacked like shields, to protect what lies below. It is a masterpiece of design, silent engineering, crafted for survival, and it has worked for thousands of years. Beneath the king's chamber lies the queen's chamber, smaller, quieter, still a mystery. It may never have been used, or it may hold symbolic meaning. Some believe it represented the womb, the place from which rebirth begins. Above, below, and beside these rooms are air shafts, narrow tunnels, cut through meters of stone. They point to specific stars. Orion, Sirius. Were they for air or spirit? Were they symbolic or scientific? We still do not know. And deeper still, beneath all else, carved into the bedrock itself, is the subterranean chamber. Rough, unfinished, mysterious. Why it was built? No one can say. Some believe it was abandoned. Others, that it served a ritual purpose, a gateway to the underworld. Whatever its reason, it adds to the wonder. The pyramid is not empty. It is alive with questions. Now, as you lie still, imagine walking through those quiet halls. The sound of your breath, bouncing off smooth stone, the cool air, the stillness, the distant memory of footsteps from long ago. The chambers may be silent, but they speak in symbols, in shapes, in a language of stone. They remind us that not all mysteries must be solved. Some are meant to be felt. So rest now. Let your thoughts move like shadows through the gallery, like wind through the shafts, like dreams in the chambers. Silent, sacred, enduring. Deep inside the Great Pyramid, past narrow tunnels, past the Grand Gallery, lies a room, simple, silent, sacred. The king's chamber. It is not large, nor is it decorated. Its walls, smooth red granite. Its shape, a perfect rectangle. Its silence, deafening. There is no gold, no throne, only a single object, the sarcophagus, a great box of granite. Empty now, but once, perhaps, it held the pharaoh himself. The stone that forms this room came from Aswan, over 800 kilometers to the south, transported by boat, lifted by rams, carried through tunnels, and yet placed so perfectly, so smoothly, the walls seem to breathe. Each block weighs many tons, fitted with care, aligned with intention, because this chamber was not just a room, it was a vessel, a container for a soul, a place for transformation. But above this chamber, hidden from view, are 5 secret rooms, relieving chambers, built not for people, but for pressure. Massive beams of granite, laid one over another, layered like shields, to protect the space below from the crushing weight of stone. The pyramid is heavy, millions of tons pressed downward. Without these chambers, the ceiling would collapse. But the ancient engineers knew how to distribute the weight, how to let the stone float in stillness. It is genius, without decoration, without noise, just function and understanding. Even the ceiling of the king's chamber is made of 9 granite beams, each one nearly 8 meters long, each one set with care. They stretch across the chamber, holding the weight, holding the silence. Above them, the hidden chambers begin, flat ceilings, then corbelled arches, to redirect force, to lift the pressure away. It is an invisible miracle, built not for the eye, but for eternity. No inscriptions, no drawings, just structure. And yet, this quiet room feels holy. It invites reflection, stillness, breath. Even today, those who visit it feel something different. The air feels heavier. Time seems slower, as if the walls remember. And perhaps they do. Imagine standing inside it now. The granite cool beneath your fingers. The air still. The quiet so deep. You can hear your own heartbeat. No light, no sound, only stone and the weight of ages. You look upward, but cannot see the relieving chambers. Still, they are there, holding, balancing, protecting, so the room may remain forever. The builders did not speak of this room in texts. They left no record of its making, but the work speaks for itself, louder than any inscription, stronger than any story. It is the heart of the pyramid, and the weight of its silence is profound. Now, as you drift deeper into rest, let your breath slow, like the quiet air in that chamber. Let your thoughts fall away, like dust on granite. Let stillness rise around you, firm, peaceful, enduring. And remember, true strength often hides above, out of sight, but never out of purpose, just like the hidden chambers, holding the sky. High within the walls of the Great Pyramid are narrow passages, so small you could barely crawl through. Straight, dark, mysterious. They are called air shafts, but their true purpose remains unknown. There are 4, 2 in the king's chamber, and 2 in the queen's chamber. They do not connect to each other. They do not lead to the outside in any ordinary way. They rise at precise angles, cut through meters of stone, straight as a ruler, unwavering. Why? Why carve tunnels no one could walk through, no one could use? Not for airflow, not for escape. So, what were they for? Some believe they were for ventilation, to cool the chambers, to let the pyramid breathe. But the pyramid does not need to breathe. It is stone, solid, still, and these shafts are too narrow for real air movement, too complex for simple function. Others believe they were for ritual, for the soul of the pharaoh to rise. Look to the sky. One shaft points toward Orion's belt, a constellation sacred to the Egyptians, linked to Osiris, god of the afterlife. Another points towards Sirius, the brightest star, home of the goddess Isis. The ancient texts speak of a journey, a path to the stars, a ladder of light. Perhaps these shafts were that path, not for the body, but for the soul, a star map, etched in stone. Inside the shafts, robotic explorers have found curious things. Small stone blocks, copper pins, hidden doors. No one knows why they're there, or what lies beyond. Some call them energy gates, others symbolic portals, and some whisper of stargates. Passages not through space, but through spirit. The idea may seem strange, but in ancient Egypt, the line between earth and sky was thin, and the pyramid was a bridge. Imagine now the soul of the pharaoh rising from the king's chamber, guided by starlight, drawn upward through stone, toward Orion, a silent ascent, carried not by wind, but by belief. The shaft becomes a tunnel of light, a connection, a passage, and above, the stars wait. Even today, the shafts remain mysterious. They were not built easily. Carving through so much stone at such angles required planning, vision, will. They were not accidents. They were chosen, aligned, executed with precision. That alone is a wonder. Now, as you rest, let your breath follow the line of those shafts. Straight, steady, slow, rising from the earth, moving through silence, reaching for the stars. You do not need to understand it all. You only need to feel it. The quiet, the alignment, the upward pull. The pyramid holds many secrets, and some are not meant to be solved, only respected, like stars that shine but never speak. At the very top of the Great Pyramid, there was once a final stone, small compared to the others, but more sacred than all below, the capstone, known to the Egyptians as the Benben, a symbol of creation, of light, of divine presence. It was the finishing touch, the crown of the king's eternal house, the last breath of a monumental dream. But today, it is gone. No one knows when it vanished, or where it rests, only that it was once there, and that it mattered. More than gold, more than myth, it held meaning. Many believe it was made of gold, or covered in electrum, a natural blend of gold and silver. Bright, reflective, radiant in the sun. At sunrise, it would have shone like a star, visible for miles, calling to the heavens. At sunset, it would catch the final light and send it back, as if whispering to the gods. It wasn't just decoration. It was communication, a glowing link between earth and sky. Legends surround the capstone. Some say it held power. Some say it was lost in a storm, stolen, broken, or buried beneath the sand. Others claim it never existed, that it was never placed, that it was always meant to remain missing. A symbol of incompleteness, of mystery, but most agree it once stood, and when it did, the pyramid was whole, perfect, balanced, complete. The capstone was shaped like a miniature pyramid, its sides polished smooth, its angles sharp. It represented the primeval mound, the first land to rise from the waters of chaos. In Egyptian mythology, a place where the sun first touched the earth, where creation began, where light was born. To place it atop the pyramid was to finish that story, to complete the cosmic journey, from stone to light, from life to eternity. Now imagine the moment. The final block lifted, slowly, silently, toward the peak. 1,000 eyes watching, 1,000 hearts waiting, and then the capstone set in place. A breath held, a cheer rising, the sun flashing across its surface. The pyramid, now alive, whole, holy, a monument not just of stone, but of meaning. And yet, even without it, the pyramid remains. Because perhaps the capstone was never meant to last. Perhaps its power lies in its absence, in what it makes us wonder, in what it makes us imagine. A missing piece that invites us to dream. Now, as you settle into stillness, picture that final point, high above the desert, gleaming in the morning sun. Feel the warmth of it, the light, the silence, and let it guide you to the top of your own pyramid, to the summit of your thoughts, where all things become clear and all dreams take shape. Even in the dark, even the unknown, something golden waits. At the top, at peace, at rest. Inside the Great Pyramid, the walls are quiet. There are no carvings, no paintings, no hieroglyphs dancing across the stone. Just stillness, just smooth surfaces, endless silence. This surprises many, because ancient Egypt is known for its art, its temples filled with color and form, its tombs alive with stories. So why is the pyramid so bare? Why are the walls left untouched? That is part of the mystery. Some believe the pyramid itself was the message. Its shape, its position, its precision. A wordless prayer, a sacred form, speaking through structure. Others believe that the inscriptions were once painted or written on organic materials, now lost to time. Wood, linen, papyrus, things that fade, that vanish, leaving only the stone. Yet still, there are symbols, hidden, faint, in the upper chambers. Above the king's chamber, red ochre marks remain. Names of work teams, numbers, directions, not for decoration, but for coordination. These were builders' notes, scrawled onto granite, by human hands, in a human moment, like whispers left behind by those who shaped the dream. One inscription reads, "The Friends of Khufu," a crew name, written with pride, proof that these were not slaves, but citizens, working in service, working with faith. Elsewhere in Egypt, in smaller pyramids, tombs, temples, the walls speak. They tell stories of gods and journeys, of judgment and rebirth, of stars and sacred rivers. They show the soul's voyage through darkness, toward light. Symbols are everywhere. The ankh for life, the scarab for transformation, the eye of Horus for protection. Each one a key, a code, a guide through eternity. But here, in the Great Pyramid, there is none of that. Only space, only geometry, only form. And perhaps that too is a kind of art. The art of silence, the art of meaning through absence. Because not all messages are written. Some are built, some are felt, like the weight of stone, the slope of an angle, the echo of a chamber. Imagine walking through it now, hand brushing the cool wall. No pictures, no words, only smooth granite. But still, you feel something, something sacred, something waiting. A message not to the eyes, but to the spirit. Perhaps the true inscription is the pyramid itself, a monument to order, to balance, to divine harmony. Every measurement, every shadow, every silence tells a story, and the builders trusted us to listen, not with our ears, but with our breath, with our quiet attention, with sleep. Now, as you drift into rest, let go of words, let go of questions. Feel the stillness of the pyramid walls. Feel their calm, their simplicity. Let them surround you, hold you, guide you gently through the silent halls of your own dreams. Because some of the most powerful messages are never spoken, they're only felt. The pyramid was never meant to stand alone. It was part of something larger, a sacred landscape, a carefully planned world of spirit and stone. Around it rose a complex, a system of temples, causeways, walls, and courtyards, each one with a role to play, each one guiding the soul. At the base of the Great Pyramid stood the mortuary temple, a place of rituals where priests came to honor the king, to offer food and prayers, to speak his name. It was built from limestone and granite, with columns, statues, carvings. Here, the soul began its journey. Offerings were made daily: bread, beer, meat, and incense, not for the body, but for the spirit. For in Egypt, to feed the dead was to keep them alive. From the mortuary temple, a causeway stretched outward, long, straight, roofed with stone, a pathway of transformation, lined with carvings, symbols, scenes from the king's life, some still visible, faded by time, but still speaking. This causeway connected the world above with the world below, the pyramid at one end, the valley temple at the other. Down near the Nile, the valley temple welcomed the king. In death, it was here the body arrived, by boat, through sacred waters. It was here purification began, cleansed, anointed, wrapped in linen. The journey was not just across land, but across the soul. Surrounding all of this were walls, courtyards, storage rooms, housing for priests, workshops for embalmers. The pyramid complex was a world of its own, alive with movement, with prayer, with memory. Even after the king was laid to rest, the rituals continued, day after day, year after year, century after century, because eternity is tended by devotion. Some of these buildings are now ruins, their stones reused, their carvings worn, but their footprints remain, their purpose still felt. Walk slowly through the complex in your mind. Stone columns rise. Cool shadows fall on ancient paths. The sound of sandals on stone. The scent of incense. The flicker of flame. A priest murmurs a prayer. A jar is opened. The past still breathes. This was not a graveyard. It was a sacred machine. A system designed to transform death into light. Every step, from the river to the pyramid, was symbolic. Each wall, each carving, each offering, part of a cosmic equation. And now, as you drift into stillness, let the complex around you. Feel the slow pace of sacred time, the hum of ceremony, the calm of perfect order. Each structure, built not for shelter, but for spirit. Each stone, placed with prayer. You are walking now, not just through ruins, but through belief. And belief is the strongest structure of all. In the soft morning light, when the sands are cool and the winds still whisper, a silent figure watches, ancient, unmoving, enduring. The great Sphinx, half lion, half man, carved from living rock, resting beside the pyramids, as if guarding them, as if waiting. It lies just east of the Great Pyramid, a creature of mystery and majesty. Its face, worn by time, but calm, still watching. Its body, stretched along the desert floor. Massive paws, a curled tail, a chest pressed to the earth. It does not rise. It does not sleep. It simply is a presence, a question, a symbol. Who built it? No one knows for sure. Some say Khafre, builder of the second pyramid, that the Sphinx bears his face. Others suggest it is older, far older, perhaps built before the pyramids, perhaps by hands long forgotten. Its purpose? Also unknown. A guardian? A symbol of royal power? A cosmic riddle? All are possible. None are certain, and that is its power. The Sphinx faces the rising sun. Each morning, it greets the light. Some believe it represents the soul's awakening, the return of life, the eternal dawn. Others say it points to celestial events, to solstices, to star alignments. Its body follows the lion, its face the man, a creature between worlds, between beast and thought, earth and sky. For centuries, it lay buried, neck deep in sand, forgotten. Only its head remained above the desert, staring across time. Only in recent centuries was it uncovered again, and even now, we do not fully understand it. Beneath its paws, a stone tablet speaks of restoration, but not of origin. Inside its body, tunnels remain unexplored, closed chambers, possible secrets. The Sphinx holds them, quietly. It does not reveal. It does not explain. It watches. Imagine now, standing before it, the wind quiet, the sky soft and gold. You look into its face, worn, but wise. It says nothing, but you feel something, a question, a challenge, a calm. You don't need the answer. You only need to look and to wonder. Some legends speak of riddles, that the Sphinx once asked questions to those who passed. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 at night? The answer is man, crawling as a child, walking upright, then with a cane. But perhaps the Sphinx's real riddle is itself. Who made it? Why? And for whom? Perhaps its silence is the answer. Now, as your eyes grow heavy, let the Sphinx watch over you. Feel its stillness, its strength, its gaze across the sands. Let it be your guardian tonight, not to protect from danger, but to remind you that mystery is not fear. It is beauty, depth, endless possibility, and sometimes to sit in silence and wonder is enough. To the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end. It was a passage, a beginning, a sacred journey to the stars. The pyramid was not just a tomb. It was a launch point, a vessel, a stairway for the soul. And that journey was carefully prepared. When a pharaoh died, the rituals began, gentle, precise, filled with reverence. The body was washed, anointed with oils, wrapped in linen, layer by layer, each fold a prayer. The process took weeks, sometimes months, not to preserve the body alone, but to ready the soul, because the journey ahead was long. The tomb itself was filled with tools, objects for the afterlife, furniture, clothing, weapons, food, even miniature boats, all crafted to serve the king, beyond this world, even statues of servants, so he would never be alone. These items were not symbols. They were real, because the afterlife was real. Along the walls of lesser tombs, paintings told the story. Fields of green, lakes of calm water, the pharaoh fishing, feasting, living forever. It was not a cold place, but a mirror of life, perfected, a paradise, called the Field of Reeds. But reaching it was not simple. The soul had to pass through trials, face judgment, be weighed against a feather, the feather of Ma'at, goddess of truth. Only if the heart was light could the soul continue. If not, it was devoured and lost. To prepare, texts were written, spells, maps, guides, the pyramid texts, carved into the walls of other pyramids, silent instructions for the king. Later came the coffin texts. Then, the famous Book of the Dead, not a book of sorrow, but a manual for the soul, a companion through the unknown. Each spell, a key, each name spoken, a light in the dark. These words mattered, because words were power. Priests recited them, during burial, during rituals, even after death. To forget a name was to let the soul fade. To speak it was to keep it alive. This is why the pharaoh's name was carved deep, bold, repeated, so it would echo through time, so the soul would never be alone. Now, imagine the tomb, lit by soft oil lamps. Priests move in silence, carrying jars, chanting quietly. The sarcophagus waits, heavy, still. A final offering is placed. A seal is set. Then, the stone lid closes. Darkness returns. But for the pharaoh, the journey begins. He moves through gates of flame, speaks the sacred names, faces serpents and guardians, answers questions, draws strength from spells, and finally, he stands before Osiris. His heart is weighed, the balance tilts, and holds steady. Light is truth. He passes. He rises. He joins the stars. Forever. Now, as you prepare for sleep, let your thoughts travel with him. Not in fear, but in calm, in purpose, in peace. Let the ancient prayers drift around you. Let the symbols hold you. And remember, in every ending, there is also a beginning. In silence, there is a path. And tonight, you walk it gently. When we think of pyramids, we often think of Giza, the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, the grand silhouettes under the desert sun. But Egypt holds many more, silent giants scattered across the sands. Older, stranger, full of forgotten stories. Let us now wander beyond Giza to where it all began, to Saqqara, to Dashur, to places time is wrapped in wind and dust. Saqqara, the resting place of kings, and the home of the very first pyramid, the step pyramid of Djoser. Not smooth-sided, not towering like Giza, but revolutionary, built over 4,600 years ago by the great architect Imhotep. It rose in steps, like a staircase to heaven, 6 layers of stone, stacked with divine intent. Before Djoser, tombs were flat, simple, mastibus, but he wanted something more, something eternal. And so, the pyramid was born. Around it, a vast complex, courtyards, chapels, walls carved with sacred symbols. Even today, much lies buried, but what remains still whispers of beginnings, of a time when Egypt was learning to reach upward. Now, we travel south, to Dashur, a quiet stretch of desert, where strange shapes rise from the sand. First, the bent pyramid, built by Sneferu, father of Khufu. It rises sharply at first, then changes angle midway. A gentle bend, an unexpected turn. Why? Perhaps the structure weakened. Perhaps they changed plans. Or perhaps it was always meant to shift. It is flawed, but beautiful. A monument to learning, to courage, to trying something new. And Sneferu did not stop. Nearby, he built again, the Red Pyramid, named for the hue of its stone. It stands tall, clean, stable. It is Egypt's first true, smooth-sided pyramid, the model for what would come. And it still stands. Quiet, majestic, rarely visited, but full of presence. There are others, too, hidden beneath sand, crumbled by time. In Mitam, a collapsed tower of stone, its smooth side slid away, leaving a step core, a frozen failure, and yet still sacred. In Abu Roash, the remains of a pyramid built for Jedefra. Scattered stones, high on a hill, the desert holds their memory, even when their form has faded. Each pyramid tells a story of ambition, of mistakes, of vision. Each one is a page in a larger book, a book written in stone. From the first cautious steps at Saqqara, to the bent walls of Dashur, to the shining face of Giza, it is all one journey, one dream, shared across centuries. The dream to touch the eternal. Now, as you close your eyes, let the wind carry you across that ancient land, from one pyramid to the next, across time, across stone. Feel the shapes shift, step to slope, rough to smooth. See the silhouettes against the setting sun, each one watching the horizon, each one waiting, and in their silence, they speak, not of perfection, but of persistence, of trying, of learning, of rising, just like dreams, just like us. Not every pyramid reached the sky. Not every dream stood the test of time. Some leaned, some cracked, some fell. But even failure can be sacred. Even broken stone has something to teach us. Before the Great Pyramid, before the elegance of Giza, Egypt experimented. They tested, they shaped, they struggled. And through that struggle, they learned. They built the foundation of eternity. One mistake at a time. Let us return to Mitam. Once it stood tall, smooth-sided, impressive, built by Sneferu, or perhaps begun by a predecessor. But it collapsed. Its outer casing slid away, leaving a tower of steps. Lonely, bare. It is called the collapsed pyramid. And yet, it was brave. A bold attempt to move from mastibus to the monumental. Its failure was a beginning, a necessary step towards something greater. Then came Dashur and the bent pyramid, rising quickly, too quickly. The lower angle, too steep. Cracks formed. The weight became unstable. And so, midway through construction, they changed the slope. The pyramid bent. Some say it looks awkward. Others say it's beautiful, a graceful adjustment, a visible reminder that even giants must adapt. It still stands, complete, not perfect, but whole, a monument to correction, to humility. Farther south, pyramids were attempted, but never completed. In Zayat el-Aryan, a foundation remains, massive stone blocks, forming a square, but nothing more, no walls, no chambers, only the start of a dream that never rose. We do not know why it stopped. Perhaps the king died. Perhaps plans changed. But even in its absence, it speaks of vision, of human reach, of how fragile plans can be. There were other pyramids, built with poor stone, rushed work, weak cores. Some crumbled within decades. Others eroded into mounds. But each one taught the builders something new about weight, about angle, about time. They refined their methods, their materials, their designs, until at last, they created Giza, strong, stable, enduring, a monument built upon every attempt before it. And perhaps that is the lesson. That failure is part of greatness, that even collapsed pyramids reach upward in their own way. They may not stand, but they point the way, and they remind us that all things, even eternal things, begin in trial. Now, as you rest, let go of perfection, let go of pressure, let your thoughts be like the Midan pyramid, shaped but unfinished. Let them bend like the stones of Dashur. Let them crumble gently into silence, because in that silence, new forms will rise, new dreams will shape, and one day, your own pyramid will stand strong because you dare to build it, even when others did not, even when it seemed impossible. At first, there were only flat tombs, low, wide, rectangular, called mastabas, simple homes for the dead. But the idea began to grow, to rise, to reach upward, not just to hold the body, but to honor the soul, to lift it toward the sky. And thus, the pyramid was born. But not all at once. It evolved, gently, gradually, like a thought, becoming a dream. It began with the step pyramid at Saqqara, built for King Djoser by the great architect Imhotep, a genius of his time, a thinker, a builder, a priest. He stacked mastabas, one atop another, 6 levels high, each one smaller than the one below. The result? A stairway to heaven, stone by stone, a sacred ladder. It was bold, new, sacred, and it changed everything. From there came new experiments. At Mitam, they tried to smooth the steps, to fill the gaps, to create a true pyramid shape. But the result was unstable. It collapsed. Still, they did not give up. They tried again. At Dashur, the bent pyramid began with ambition. But as it rose, cracks formed, angles changed, and so they adjusted. The slope softened, the form bent, but it stood, a graceful compromise, a curve between hope and caution. Then came the Red Pyramid, also a Dashur, built by Sneferu, who had learned much. He chose a safer angle, a steadier plan, and for the first time, a smooth-sided pyramid rose. Complete, balanced, it became the model, the blueprint for what would follow. His son, Khufu, took that vision further, and at Giza, he built the greatest of them all, the Great Pyramid, perfectly aligned, massive, majestic, the shape now refined, the slope now known, the system now tested. What began as flat tombs had become mountains of stone, for not by chance, but by evolution, by centuries of wisdom, carved into each layer. The shape itself holds meaning. The triangle, strong, stable, pointing upward, it represents light, sun rays, the eternal path. And so, the pyramid became more than structure. It became symbol of resurrection, of divinity, of cosmic order, a visual hymn, sung in stone. As time passed, pyramids grew smaller, more hidden, buried beneath cliffs, but the shape remained in the mind. It had become sacred, a memory in stone, even in temples, in drawings, in dreams. The pyramid lived on. Now, as you drift into rest, let your thoughts follow this path, from flat to rising, from rough to smooth, from earth to sky. Let your breath stack gently, like steps of ancient stone, and let your mind rise, like the first pyramid, quiet, bold, new, because every great shape, every strong structure begins with a change, and every dream must evolve, one layer at a time. Time flows like the Nile, steady, endless, quiet, and across that time, the pyramids changed. What began as bold experiments became tradition, then transformation, then memory. The pyramid followed Egypt's heartbeat, from the Old Kingdom to the New. In the Old Kingdom, pyramids reached their peak. This was the time of Djoser, Sneferu, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, a golden age of large stones, of great ambition. They built with clarity, with strength, with vision carved in every block. Giza rose, Saqqara evolved, Dashur experimented. Pyramids dominated the horizon, not just as tombs, but as symbols of divine rule, of cosmic order. Each king sought to match, or surpass, the glory of the last. But with time came change. The central power weakened, resources faded, ambitions dimmed. By the Middle Kingdom, pyramids became smaller, built with mud brick, covered in limestone, less durable. Many of these have not survived. Time and wind reduced them to soft hills, but their hearts remain, hidden beneath the sand, still watching the sky. In the New Kingdom, a great shift occurred. Pharaohs no longer built pyramids. They turned to the cliffs of Thebes, to the Valley of the Kings. Here, tombs were hidden, cut deep into the rock, invisible, secret, protected from thieves. But even in this change, the pyramid's shape remained. It lived in memory, in art, in temple roofs, in the pointed tops of obelisks. The pyramid became a spiritual form, no longer towering, but eternal. Still, some pyramids returned, smaller ones, built for queens, for royal children. And even centuries later, far to the south, in Nubia, the pyramid was reborn. At Meroe and Nuri, kings and queens of Kush built hundreds of pyramids. Tall, narrow, elegant, a revival, a memory brought back to life. Proof that the pyramid had traveled far, not just through space, but through time. Each era left its mark. Each king left a shape. Some still stand. Others rest beneath dust, unseen, but not forgotten. And together, they form a map, a constellation of stone, stretching across centuries, a testament to the enduring idea of rising. Now, as you prepare to rest, feel that flow of time, the quiet rhythm, the layers of memory, the evolution of shape and purpose. Like waves upon the Nile, ideas shift, forms change, but the essence remains. A soul rising from the earth, always reaching. So tonight, let your thoughts drift like Pharaoh's past, from one era to the next, from body to breath, from time into timelessness. Sometimes, when people look at the pyramids, they wonder, how could this be built so long ago, so precisely, so beautifully? And in that wondering, stories are born, some rooted in history, others in the stars. Let's drift gently now between fact and imagination, between what we know and what we dream. The pyramids are real, built by hands, by minds, by years of labor. Yet some believe they are too perfect, too large, too mysterious, and so they suggest another explanation. Aliens, visitors from the sky, ancient astronauts, beings of light and knowledge, who came to Earth to help us build. It is a popular story, told in books, in films, on late-night programs, and whispered in wonder. But is it true? Let's look with calm eyes. The ancient Egyptians left behind tools, drawings, quarries, or camps. Archaeologists have found evidence of copper chisels, stone sleds, ramps, housing for thousands of workers. There are marks on blocks, in shafts, notes written in red from workers who knew their job. These were people, not strangers from the stars, but farmers, builders, masons, architects. They used time and knowledge and patience, not spaceships. Still, the theories persist. Some point to the alignment, the perfect north-facing sides, the relation to Orion's belt. They ask, did someone guide them? But ancient people watched the stars closely every night. 4 generations. They built calendars from starlight, mapped seasons by shadows, measured time by the sun. The sky was their compass, their teacher, their clock, and the pyramid was their answer, a shape made of earth, but pointed toward heaven. Others claim the stones are too heavy, too large to move, but we now know they used simple machines, levers, sleds over wet sand, human coordination, and they had time, years, even decades. No rush, no need for shortcuts, only steady purpose. Even today, experiments have shown it can be done with the tools they had. Hard? Yes. Impossible? No. Still, the myths have beauty. They speak to our longing, to believe in something more, to reach beyond the known, to touch the stars. And that is very human. But perhaps the real miracle is not alien. It is human effort, human belief, human hands building something for the divine. So tonight, you do not need to solve the mystery. You only need to feel it, whether guided by stars, by gods, or by our own dreams. The pyramids stand, silent, mysterious, majestic, and that is enough. Now, as you rest, let go of the questions. Let your mind float gently between wonder and peace, whether built by humans or imagined by the cosmos. The pyramids hold meaning. Their presence, their quiet strength, their calm beneath the stars reminds us that great things can be built stone by stone, breath by breath, in silence, even by us. The pyramids have stood, silent and still, for thousands of years. But now, new eyes watch them. Not human eyes, not simple ones. Scanners, drones, robots, tools of light and sound that can see inside stone without breaking it. These new tools have opened doors, not physical doors, but doors of knowledge. They have found hidden voids, secret chambers, spaces unknown to those who walked centuries ago. One such discovery was a vast, empty space above the Grand Gallery. No one knew it was there until scientists sent rays of particles through the pyramid stone. This chamber is silent, empty, a mystery waiting to be understood. Drones have flown through narrow shafts, exploring where no human can go, sending back images, finding artifacts, stone blocks, copper pins. Each discovery is a new piece of the puzzle, but also a new question. What were these hidden rooms for? Who built them? And why? The technology continues to improve. Thermal imaging shows heat differences. 3D models recreate the pyramid's form. Robotics explore tunnels. Mapping the unknown. It is as if the pyramid itself is slowly revealing its secrets. Not all at once, not easily, but gently, patiently, like a story told in whispers. the ancient builders would be amazed. Their silent monument, now under the watchful eyes of machines. Yet the mystery remains, because no scan, no image, no discovery can replace wonder. The pyramids still hold their quiet magic, their power to inspire, to calm, to connect us with the past. Imagine now the soft hum of machines, the drone's slow flight, light moving through dark stone, a silent conversation between ancient stone and modern mind. And even as we uncover more, we listen with respect. We do not rush. We do not disturb. We wait for the next secret to come. Now, as you lie still, let your breath slow. Feel the gentle pulse of discovery. Not loud, not hurried, but calm, like the stones, like the desert, like the pyramid itself. The pyramids have stood for millennia, silent witnesses to time, monuments not just of stone, but of human spirit. Today, they teach us many things. Science teaches us patience, dedication, precision, how ancient people, without computers, without modern machines, could achieve such greatness through observation, through trial, through faith in knowledge. They remind us that wonder is not lost to time. Faith teaches us belief in something greater, in connection, in the unseen. The pyramids were built not only with hands, but with hearts, filled with hope, with trust in the eternal. They show us that faith can shape the world, can build mountains, can reach the stars. And wonder, that gentle feeling of awe, that spark of curiosity, that quiet question whispered in the night, is perhaps the greatest gift. It connects us to the past, to each other, to dreams. The pyramids stand as reminders that great things are built slowly, with care, with unity, that even the impossible can be reached, with courage, with faith, with wonder. Tonight, as you rest, remember their lessons. Patience, belief, curiosity, let them settle in your mind. Like soft stones, arranged carefully. Let your breath slow. Let your heart open. And know that like the pyramids, you too are part of something eternal. Now, sleep well. Rest deeply. Dream gently. While you sleep, the story continues. The pyramids stand, silent, still, majestic. They have watched the rise and fall of empires, the shifting sands of time, the passing of countless stars. But they do not speak. They do not move. They simply are. Each stone, set with care, placed with hope, carved from dreams. They hold the stories of those who built them, of hands and hearts, of sweat and song, the builder's dream, of eternity, of reaching the heavens. Those centuries have passed. Their vision remains, unbroken, strong, a testament to human spirit, to belief, to the desire to leave a mark, to be remembered, to touch the infinite. Now, as you lie still, feel the weight of those stones, not heavy, not burdensome, but grounding, calming, a gentle anchor for your thoughts, your dreams, your rest. The pyramids remind us that some things last beyond time, beyond words, beyond life. They remind us that in every ending, there's a beginning, that all we build, all we cherish, can become eternal. So now, as your breath slows and your mind softens, let the eternal stones hold you. Let them guide you into peaceful sleep, into dreams as vast as the desert, into quiet wonder. Good night. Rest well. And while you sleep, know the builder's dream lives on.